Zimbabwe was subject to sanctions imposed by the US and EU. Their choice was a reaction to the nation's contentious land reform policy, which involved taking the land from wealthy white farmers and giving it to landless black farmers.
Welcome again to another episode of the Washington SXM podcast. As always, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell to get notified whenever I drop a video. So, the more I dive into Africa, the continent, the more I'm learning, and I'm learning something new recently about Zimbabwe. So let's get into it, and we're gonna see why the pushback Zimbabwe putting on the Europeans and Americans. Let's get into it.
Zimbabwe puts Europe on its heels. Europe is begging before Zimbabwe for lithium via an African company. Hard rock lithium, a necessary material in the creation of sustainable energy technology, is found in some of the greatest quantities in the world in the southern African nation. The $678 million worth of lithium mines and projects in Zimbabwe were purchased over the past year by Chinese Goliaths, Zhejiang Cobalt, Cinnamon Resource Group, and Chengxin Lithium Group. These companies are currently developing mines and processing facilities, which would exempt them from the ban. As part of its efforts to have the primary raw material used in electric vehicle batteries processed domestically, Zimbabwe has banned the export of unprocessed raw lithium with immediate effect.
That makes sense.
According to a directive from Mines Minister Winston Chitando, no lithium-containing ores or any unbeneficiated lithium whatever shall be exported from Zimbabwe to another country. According to Deputy Mines Minister Polite Kimbamura, the regulation will not apply to mining businesses that are developing processing plants. In the past 2 years, lithium has soared more than 1,100% to a record high as the supply has battled to keep up with the raging demand.
Stick up in there. So you see the Chinese are taking over Africa. I mean, we come out of finance and projects and developments. And Africa right now have the richest minerals by far for the rest of the world, right? So the idea that Zimbabwe ban the export of lithium out of this country, that's a plus because everybody going and taking advantage of Africa. So this is a good move from the Zimbabwe president, banning all export of lithium. Let's continue.
By 2030, according to the Rio Tinto Group, EV sales could account for 50% of all vehicle sales, up from 9% in 2018. Mining companies have been searching the globe for opportunities to source new supplies. You might wonder why Europe would be begging Zimbabwe for lithium. Stay connected as we find out why. Please make sure to like and share this video.
Oh, this video is from Africa Reload, so you guys can go and check it out. Check out this channel. I'll put the link in the description.
In mining earnings to foreign corporations, Zimbabwe has banned the export of raw lithium from its mines. In accordance with the Base Minerals Export Control Act, the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development published a circular on December 20 that aims to guarantee that the president's objective of the country, becoming an upper-middle income economy, has been accomplished. The government claims that externalization and smuggling to South Africa and the United Arab Emirates are costing it $1.8 billion in...
That's a big revenue, $1.8 billion to be losing annually. It's a big loss because of they're bringing the ore of lithium to South Africa and other places. So this is not the first time they've been doing this. They are robbing the country blind by mining it and shipping it out under the disguise of whatever they want to disguise it under, and then it's reaping havoc on the economy.
Lost mining earnings. The most smuggled mineral is gold. Zimbabwe is anticipated to rank among the top exporters of lithium due to the country's high domestic demand, with the government aiming to supply 20% of global lithium demand once all of the country's lithium resources have been fully utilized. According to a 2021 mining report by the London School of Economics, mineral exports make up around 60% of Zimbabwe's export profits, while the mining industry contributes 16% to the country's GDP. The greatest lithium deposits in Africa are in Zimbabwe. The greatest lithium mines in the nation are found at the Bikita mine, which is 308 kilometers south of Harare, the capital. The report states that once the mine is operational, the Arcadia lithium mine is estimated to attain an annual production of 2.5 million tons of lithium ore, which would roughly amount to $3 billion in exports.
Damn.
Zimbabwe was subject to sanctions imposed by the US and EU. Their choice was a reaction to the nation's contentious land reform policy, which involved taking the land from wealthy white farmers and giving it to landless black farmers.
Stick up in. This is what I don't like with the West in Europe. They like to use their currency to sanction other nations, especially in Africa, and crash the economy and make the country become dependent on third world relation. But anyway, let's get into the reason why they enforce the sanctions on Zimbabwe in the first place. I had to get some information on that, right? President Mugabe, for the past 15, he died in 2018, I think, but there was a coup in 2017 to put him out of power. So in the pre-2017 until he was ruling for like a couple of decades, right? I think from 1980. Anyway, he took away over 4,000 property from white people and give it to black people, right? And this is why America and Europe sanctioned him, because he take the farmland from over 4,000. So right now they only have currently around 100 maybe white landowners, farmers in Zimbabwe at the present moment. 100 to 150, roughly, right? But here's my deal on when Mugabe took away the property from the white farmers. I'm in agreement with that, but they should be compensated. But Mugabe did say no white person should own any property in Zimbabwe, right? But I'm not this is what, if a white person go to Zimbabwe and buy the property legally, they have all the rights to the property. I don't believe should take it away. Those are not the lands that was taken away, right? It's not the land that was bought legally through the legal channel was taken away. The land that was taken away, from what I understand, from my research I did, is property that was handed down from generation to generation to generation to the whites. So what President Mugabe was saying is, that's not your property, that's not your land, because it was stolen from the Zimbabweans in the 18th century and the 16th century and the 19th century as well. And then these people now hand it down to them children, and then children can grow up, do the same thing, hand it down to them to the children. So those are the lands he took away, over 4,000 farmland, which is, I think it was 5 million acres or something, something like that. So it was a lot of land, because in turn, over 300,000 Zimbabweans got property from that 4,000 farmers that took the land from. Over 300,000 black people get property through that whole situation, right? So I agree with him to a point where you cannot get land that's passed down and say it's yours. If it's bought legally, and they can come in the country and you pay for the property, then you have all rights to it. But this new president now, I don't know what he's gonna do about it. I think he's gonna do like pay them back for the property, but he won't return it, which is a good thing, because it belongs to Zimbabweans. And America is the last person to be the moral police anywhere in the world. Anyway, let's continue and see what's happening.
The administration defended its action by stating that it was taken to right a historical wrong. The actual reason the West imposed sanctions on the African nation, led by former President Robert Mugabe, was because it refused to recognize the domination of the US and Europe and had positive ties to Russia. Zimbabwe is not now governed by an autocratic figure. Since 2017, President Emerson Mnangagwa has presided over a democracy in the nation, with free and fair elections and speech rights, but the West hasn't thought about easing its sanctions. Sam may penalize a little country when it is displeased, but there is no time limit or process that retracts those measures once they have served their purpose, as demonstrated by the ambiguity in West's actions.
Look at that country.
Premier African Minerals Limited is a firm that develops mining and natural resources today. In West and Southern Africa, it purchases and develops natural resources. It deals in a wide range of products, including limestone, tungsten, tantalum, lithium, and potash. Premier African has claimed successful results from its lithium and tantalum drilling project in Zimbabwe. The West is increasingly looking to new sources to obtain minerals like lithium, as it is losing control over nations with abundant mineral resources like the DRC and the Central African Republic. The West is perfectly aware that doing so would violate its own sanctions. Therefore, it cannot directly purchase lithium from Zimbabwe.
America
As
do
a
this
result,
all the
the
time.
West has strategically placed its enterprises to compete for the necessary mineral deposits.
Stick up in. This is what I'm saying with America. They will act as if this big moral police by putting sanctions on countries for things that they have no business to be get involved in the first place. But then they will go through the back door now and try to do the same thing that they're telling everybody else not to do to the country. They in turn doing it in a back door, saying like going to different countries now to buy the same thing that they just banned the country from doing with sanctions. That's how America is. They're very corrupt. America only put interest in a country when they have something they want, like the lithium. It's the most lithium worldwide is in Zimbabwe. Have the majority of lithium. So see, this is what America do. They dethrone governments, put sanctions on them to destabilize the region, and then go in the back door now and do back deals. That's what they do. This is what they do with Africa and the continent for decades now.
Some European businesses have contacted premier African Minerals CEO George Roach in an effort to obtain lithium, and they have asked him for approval of their company's lithium project in Zimbabwe.
Backdoor deals.
In an interview with the Africa Report, George Roach argued that the US and the EU should end their sanctions against Zimbabwe and make investments in its lithium industry. Roach contends that these businesses ought to advocate for the lifting of Zimbabwean sanctions. The nation boasts one of Africa's largest lithium reserves. In fact, a mine in the Msbenga province has a 10.8 million tons of lithium reserve.
The biggest lithium resources in the world.
Despite having the
It's in
capacity,
Zimbabwe.
resources, and labor force to expand, the nation is unable to do so. As a result, he is speaking out in favor of lifting the sanctions on Zimbabwe
Good for
that
him.
have plunged the country into a crisis. In fact, a lot of leaders have pushed for the West to follow suit. Sanctions' negative economic effects on Zimbabwe include soaring inflation, debt
That's what
distress,
they destabilize a
poverty,
country when they put
unemployment,
sanctions on it.
etc. About $100 billion in aid and funding from financial organizations like the African Development Bank have been lost by the country. The GDP decreased from $6.78 billion in 2001 to $4.42 billion in 2008, according to data from the World Bank. George, however, argued that the West should travel to South Africa and begin the process of refining lithium while also lifting antiquated and pointless sanctions. The West needs to realize that imposing sanctions on the front while engaging in covert diplomacy would not be effective.
Stick up in, and this is what America do. See, they put sanctions on a country, and then they go to backdoor deals. And this is what this guy is saying. The guy that have the rights to the ore lithium in Zimbabwe. You can't do that. That's not nice. You can't be doing that, and then you want to come to me now and tell me to undercut Zimbabwe, to mess up the economy even more. So you can't trust them.
It needs to start treating African countries as equals, not as superiors, or it will continue to lose influence on the continent. If you did find that...
Anyway, we'll stop it there. The new president now, which is, I can't pronounce his last name, but his first name is Emerson. He said that he gonna do like a repayment to the farmers of that will value roughly around $3.5 billion, but that's gonna be a steep climb to come back over, because that's a lot of money to get back to repay. So where the money gonna come from? So even though the president of Zimbabwe, the present one, he banned the export of lithium ore to any country, but if the mining company put in the resources to refine it and do all of that, then it's not banned to that company. That's why you have the company that they say is exempt from the ban. Because if you come and take the ore and just take it to Zimbabwe, then they don't make no money. But if you have a processing plant there, then you have to hire locals, you have to hire Zimbabweans, and then you have the drivers and the trucks. Taxes get paid to the government, and they get a percentage of the lithium as well. Because remember they have the biggest deposit of lithium. And you see, Europe and this is why the BRICS gonna come in so good. The BRICS, for who don't know, is another form of currency they're gonna use to, like that what the Chinese, the Russia, Chinese, Brazil, South America, South Africa, and India is using. They have their own bank in China, and it's like an IMF, like the World Bank. Same concept with the BRICS bank based in China. So even though America sanctioning these countries, if they come together and have their own currency, which is what they are in process of doing, then they can bypass the American dollar, and then the economy won't crash, it won't get destabilized, and then everybody can come together and make money. This is what Africa is trying to do now, is to get into this. Algeria as well is trying to get into the BRICS. I did a video on the BRICS earlier, what it's about and the reason for it. And South Africa is the chairperson right now for it. So let's hope he can get together with like Zimbabwe and the Congo. Congo have the most. Congo have the ore for we then use to make phones and the TVs, and Zimbabwe have the ore for batteries, for lithium, for so you see, you have these countries have massive backing when they come onto the economy. So that's why I can't understand why these countries are so poor. But now I know sanctions from America and from Europe, and then they're going to backdoor deals and by doing the same thing. But to the world, they look as if they are this moral police. They do everything they do, but they're doing a lot of backdoor deals, causing coups in Africa, in African countries, destabilizing the government and crashing the economy. So they become dependent and can't have no bargaining power. But now Zimbabwe has bargaining power with the lithium ore they have currently in Zimbabwe, and gold as well. They have gold as well, and limestone and a couple of other stuff. But now Europe, not Africa, Europe, not America, they cannot bully Zimbabwe right now, because they need what Zimbabwe has. And since Zimbabwe have a ban on lithium, they have to go to the government directly. So there's no more backdoor deals. And the guy who has the farm, the mining ore, the deal to mine the ore of lithium in Africa, he's with Zimbabwe. He tell America, no, I can't work with you because they have sanctions on the country. And that's what they try to do, come through the guy to go through the back door to do I lose my train of thought just now. Yeah, the backdoor deal to steal what they want and pay less for the and the country still economy doesn't right. But with this, Zimbabwe have a bright future. The economy gonna grow dramatically from now on. So let's hope other African countries follow suit and presidents and start put the continent first and putting themselves first. So anyway, hope you learned something today from this video. I learned a lot. So if you don't know what it is, it's the Washington SXM podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. Click the bell to get notified when I drop a video. You don't know. Peace, one love, boom.